joined the call today, and thank you to those staff members that are also on the line. We will go quickly through the presentation, and then at the end of the presentation, we'll open up the floor for question and answers. We are asking that everyone limit their time in asking questions just so we can get through the large amount of residents that are on the line today. And as a reminder, this is a RAD related meeting, so we ask that you do limit questions to RAD specific kind of questions, comments, or responses to what you saw today. Our property manager is on the line if there are any type of like maintenance issues or ongoing work orders. We just ask that you reach out to Ms. Williams at another time, or we also will provide her number throughout the presentation so that you may ask your direct questions to her. With that, I will turn it over to my colleague, Jonathan Rogers, to get us started. Thank you.
Great, thanks, LaShawn. And I'm running the PowerPoint today. My computer is hanging up. Here we go. Okay, hopefully everyone can see the slides, or if you're following at home, I'll be sure to call out the slide title. You can follow on the printed slides. But my name is Jonathan Rogers. I'm a development project manager with DCHA in the Office of Capital Programs. Thank you for being here today to hear about the Melville RAD project, which includes Montana Terrace renovations. We're excited to be here today to share with you about the project and the exciting renovations that are part of the Melville RAD project. Here's an agenda for today. We will share some information about RAD and some RAD facts, talk about the relocation process overview, and share services that are provided through the Office of Resident Services, talk about current and future resident engagement related to the Melville RAD project, and share with you how COVID-19 is impacting those engagement opportunities, and how we're making special accommodations to make sure that we're able to engage with you in a safe manner. And then we will talk about next steps. I wanted to start here. You see at the bottom of the slide what DCHA's mission is. So first, DCHA's mission is to preserve, manage, and develop quality, affordable housing to extremely low through moderate income households. We also want to foster sustainable communities and cultivate human capital opportunities for residents to improve their lives. So why are we here today talking about the RAD program? Why is DCHA pursuing a RAD program opportunity? Well, there's some basic realities that we're dealing with. Essentially, the federal government is not providing enough funding to make improvements to public housing properties that residents of public housing deserve. The byproduct of that is that capital needs, repairs, etc., are not being met because there isn't sufficient funding. At the same time, public housing properties are aging. They have a growing list of improvements that are needed. Depending on the property, it could be new kitchens and bathrooms that are needed, or things like roofs and leaks and foundation issues. And so you have sort of two things happening. One is your capital needs increasing and your federal funding decreasing. What this does is it results in a gap between available funding options and available funding and the capital needs that public housing authorities are facing. With DCHA, as an example, we expect that our capital needs is $2.5 billion. That's billion with a B. And this far exceeds the contribution that the federal government is providing. And we expect that federal contribution to actually decrease over time, not increase, to meet this increasing capital needs. So the rental assistance demonstration program is an option that HUD offers to allow public housing authorities to obtain more sustainable funding choices and funding sources to be able to generate money to be able to invest that into public housing properties. So how does RAD work? it converts the subsidy to a project-based Section 8 contract and funding stream rather than a traditional public housing Section 9 subsidy. Talk a little bit more about that on the coming slides. Some of the stuff we already covered on the next slide. RAD is a HUD program that allows DCHA to fund major building improvements and through a stabilized source of funding for the future. Now, what kind of major building improvements are we talking about? RAD has a requirement, and the strings attached with RAD are that properties must be improved to a 20-year viability. What does that mean? That means the properties have to be in a state of good repair such that they're built to last for the long run, for 2 decades. So this means that if you have water damage or old kitchens and bathrooms or windows that won't work at a property, you actually have to bring the quality of those capital and physical elements up to 20-year viability as part of the RAD transaction. So this RAD transaction in particular comes with it a fairly significant renovation in order to address the capital needs in order to meet that 20-year viability. So keep that 20-year viability in mind. I'll come back to that theme over and over again. And in a few slides, we'll talk about what specific improvements are planned for Montana Terrace to meet that 20-year viability. Now, that's what RAD does. Is it provides a stabilized funding source and allows that funding to be invested into the property in order to bring properties into 20-year viability. But it does so with no resident displacement, no loss of housing benefits, and no change in rent calculation. So like today, rent calculation will continue to be based on 30% of your income. Some RAD facts. HUD crafted this federal program as a response to fill the growing gap between decreasing federal funding and increasing capital needs. So this is the topic that we covered on one of the first slides. Because federal funding is often not enough to provide for the high upkeep costs of existing properties, RAD allows public housing authorities like DCHA to move away from the federal annual contributions contract, what we call ACC, to a project-based Section 8 assistance. This makes it possible for DCHA to obtain funding from private and alternative sources to improve the capital needs of buildings. And we'll talk about some of those sources now. So RAD allows the Public Housing Authority, again, DCHA in this case, to work with partners who want to invest in building improvements. This gives DCHA the opportunity to approach financing in a few different ways and approach different partners in generating the funding needed to cover the cost of the renovations associated with the RAD project. What it allows DCHA to do is the opportunity to borrow money for the improvements, so taking out a loan, seeking bond issuance for the improvements, working with philanthropic partners, nonprofit organizations who want to invest in the community, or take on development partners or investors. So what we just covered was information about the RAD program overall, why we're interested in it, what needs it's serving, what funding opportunities it opens up. Now I want to switch gears to talk about the Melvo project specifically. So Melvo is an acronym for 5 DCHA properties. That's Montana, Elvins, Lincoln, Villager, and Ontario. Spells out Melvo. These are 5 scattered DCHA properties scattered across the district that we're bringing under one RAD project for a number of reasons. It allows us to get some efficiencies in terms of moving smaller, what are 5 smaller projects and properties together under one project, and take advantage of some efficiencies and economies of scale in order to bring about improvements at each of those 5 properties. On the table on the screen, or if you're following on the printout at home on the slide Melvo project info, you can see that the properties range in size from 13 units at the smallest, and that's Ontario Road, to Montana Terrace, which is the largest at 64 units. Total, there are 136 units across all 5 Melvo properties. Generally, in terms of unit composition and size, the units at the Melvo properties tend to skew towards the larger end, 2s and 3s and 4 bedrooms, particularly at Montana. And so we do see a lot of larger families and households across the Melvo portfolio. While we certainly have our work cut out for us, and there's still many process steps that need to happen before the RAD conversion would take place, we have already achieved a number of milestones on the Melvo project, and I wanted to share some of those with you right now. If this is all sounding somewhat familiar to you, it's because DCHA has been out in the past, back 5 years ago in 2015, and then somewhat more recently in 2018 to talk about RAD and renovations at Montana Terrace. So this what I'm saying here may sound familiar, may be jogging your memory. We have received approval from the DCHA board in the form of Resolution 19-10, which happened in 2019. And what the board did was authorize DCHA staff to advance the Melvo RAD project. It allowed us to approach financing partners. It allowed us to advance pre-development, sort of the planning activities related to the project, and we'll talk about some of those. We also, from HUD, reached a major milestone of receiving a CHAP from them in the form of, and that stands for a Commitment for Housing Assistance Payment. It basically means it's not the end of the HUD approval process, but it's an indication that HUD is on board and supportive of our project. So we've received that. Importantly, we completed early on a capital needs assessment that professional architects and engineers went around to each of the properties and analyzed them to understand what capital needs were required in order to bring the properties up to that 20-year viability. So there's that theme again. We then took that capital needs assessment, which identified things like new water system, new heating systems, kitchens and bathrooms, flooring, common area improvements, and we'll get into some of the specifics at Montana. Take all those capital needs and work them into actual architectural plans. So plans for improvements, renovations that would happen at the properties, including Montana Terrace. And then now we're in the process of trying to bring on a general contractor who would actually take those architectural plans and construct them. So they would be, a private general contractor would actually be constructing the improvements that are associated with that, the renovation to bring the property up to 20-year viability. Sort of all throughout the architectural plans and the general contractor solicitation, we've developed cost estimates. So how much it'll cost to actually make these improvements, which then fed into the project structure and financing approach, which I'll talk to you a little bit about. All right, so now I want to shift gears a little bit again. So we talked about just now the Melvo project overall. I want to focus in on Montana Terrace specifically, since you as residents of Montana Terrace are probably most interested in what the plans are for the property that you currently live in. And so I'll share with you some of the scope of improvements that are slated as part of the renovation. What you can see on the screen here, and if you're following along at home, the slide called Montana Terrace Scope of Improvements, you can see this architectural rendering showing the overall site plan, as well as a few perspectives of what the project will look like when it's completed. So you can see things called out like playground and courtyard improvements, some landscaping, as well as a few perspectives, including in the bottom right, the new playground. So just to give you a little bit of an idea of what you should expect renovation-wise. Here is a list of the scope of improvements that are included as part of the Melvo project. We're talking about new kitchens and new bathrooms, a remodel of the community building, including addressing some structural and water issues there, wall repair and painting throughout the project, new LED lighting and flooring, new HVAC systems and hot water heaters, and cleaning of air ducts. Outside, sort of on the exterior of buildings or in the common areas, there's improved landscaping, and part of that is a new playground and plaza. Additional site lighting throughout, cleaning of the facade, building facades, new roofs, and new windows throughout. And on the next slide, I want to show you, I think what many people are probably interested in. What are the kitchens going to look like? And so we wanted to share with you a couple of the kitchen configurations. These aren't necessarily representative of all the finishes exactly as they will be provided in the renovation, but more to show you sort of the types of improvements that are coming to the kitchen areas. So you can see things on the perspectives here, like new flooring, new cabinetry, new backsplashes and countertops, and new appliances, as well as new lighting. So these are all types of things that are coming as part of the renovation associated with the Melvo RAD project. Now I want to switch gears again and talk about how we're going to pay for all this stuff. So you just saw kind of, I hope what you think are pretty pictures and exciting renovations that are coming to the project. So how is DCHA going to pay for all this? So I wanted to highlight two elements of the funding structure that DCHA is advancing as part of the Melvo RAD project. The first is a financing tool called the RAD Section 18 blend. This is a HUD-approved tool that generates additional sources of revenue in the project that then get reinvested back into the properties. What it allows for is for public housing authorities to consider 25% of the units across a project to be converted under a Section 18 disposition. The other 75% of units would be converted under a simple RAD transaction. The benefit to the project and then ultimately to residents is that the 25% Section 18 disposition allows for greater sources of funding, additional subsidy coming into the project so that we can make, like I said, additional improvements. The important thing for you as residents to understand about the RAD Section 18 blend is that this is really simply a HUD financing tool. The inclusion of a Section 18 disposition in the RAD project does not diminish residents' rights described in the resident information notice, which you should have received a few weeks ago, and we'll highlight in this presentation. And will also not affect residents differently compared to a conventional RAD conversion that does not include a Section 18 disposition. DCHA is also pursuing 4% low-income housing tax credits as part of the financing plan. What this does is it allows DCHA to finance improvements to stabilize the property for long-term viability. What you have, and we'll talk a little bit about the structure in a minute, is a tax credit investor. So some sort of institution or entity that would be the 99% owner in the project and allows them to obtain IRS tax credits. So their tax bill is lowered. They buy into those tax credits, and that buying into tax credits then comes to DCHA in the form of funding for the project. This comes with it a 15-year initial compliance period, which is extended as is required by the district for an additional 15 years. And then there's also as part of the RAD use agreement, an affordable housing requirement recorded on the property to ensure that the property remains an affordable housing property. So this sort of unexciting diagram here is the proposed transaction structure. This is a structured as a self-development, DCHA self-development project through a special purpose entity. And we can start on the bottom where it says owner entity. That will be sort of the project. The two forces sort of that are part of that project are on the right side, the tax credit investor, Wells Fargo Affordable Housing Community Development Corporation. And then on the left side, that whole stack is DCHA. We'll form a general partnership underneath Capital Housing Partners, which is underneath DC Housing Solutions and is all part of the broader DCHA family. So even though you see at the bottom Melvo GP LLC and Wells Fargo, your experience as residents on a day-to-day basis will continue to remain the same as you experience it today. DCHA, for all intents and purposes, will be your day-to-day contact. We will continue to have DCHA management and operations of Montana Terrace and the other Melvo properties. So next slide, slide 15, called Project Timeline, if you're following on the printout at home. So here we are today in September. We're holding a round of resident meetings. This is actually the second meeting for Montana specifically as part of this September outreach. I think I see some familiar names and faces, so thank you for those who have joined us a second time. For those who this is your first meeting, thank you for joining us. We're excited that you're here, and thank you for taking the time out of your day to hear about the project. This will certainly not be the last time we're here talking to you about the Melvo project. We expect later this year, in association with the financing plan that DCHA is required to submit to HUD, there'll be another round of resident engagement meetings. Like I said, we expect that later this year in 2020. And then again, prior to project closing, which means all the planning work is done and we're right at the point where we're ready to start construction, we will be out and providing notice to residents. And this is expected either later this year or early next year. Construction is anticipated to begin in the first quarter of 2021. The overall completion of the renovations across the Melvo properties is expected to take 18 months. However, the construction will be phased building by building. So at a property where you have, like Montana Terrace, where there's multiple buildings, we anticipate that the renovations will occur in phases. And we do know that short-term relocation will be necessary. And I want to talk to you about what we know about the relocation and then kind of tell you the plan for coming back as we learn more about the relocation options. But because of the scope of the work, the nature of the work, where we're renovating kitchens and bathrooms and changing out systems, those renovations are fairly invasive and wouldn't allow you as a resident to live in the property comfortably, without a toilet, without running water. And so there will be, without kitchen appliances, and with the floors being out of commission. So like I said, we expect that there will be a short-term relocation needed. And we'll talk a little bit more about what that looks like in the coming slides. But certainly, I want to put you at ease because we're expecting to start in early 2021. It's not the case where you have to start packing right away. We will be back many times to share with you updated information, both about what the relocation options are, learn from you what your specific needs are as it relates to relocation. Do you have doctor's appointments? Do you have kids that need to go to school, hopefully one day soon, and stop, once we're back in the classroom. So we'll want to learn about that. And then we'll also certainly update you on the schedule and the calendar and give you plenty of advance notice prior to any relocation needing to take place. So this is a good time now to talk about what are your rights as a resident. And these are rights guaranteed through the RAD project, and I wanted to share with you what those rights are. You have a guaranteed right to return to the project, to Montana Terrace. So if you live in Montana Terrace now, after the RAD conversion, you have the absolute right to return, and you have the right to return without rescreening as part at that time. We will be providing full relocation assistance. Here it says if you need to move temporarily during construction, we anticipate that there will in fact be a temporary relocation. So we have DCHA staff from our relocation team who will be on in just a few minutes to share with you the relocation approach and all the services and equipment materials that we offer free of charge. Resident councils will continue to be funded in the same way. And then, as I said on an earlier slide, your rents will continue to be based on 30% of your adjusted income, just as they are today. So a few more words about relocation. Relocation plans are currently being developed. We're just at the stage in the process where we are still working through the details of the relocation plan, both in terms of what the duration will be and what the relocation options are. I can tell you that the duration of the relocation will be something that is measured in weeks rather than months and months, and certainly not years and years. We are requiring that the general contractor complete the work as quickly as possible, but in any circumstance, no more than 59 days will residents be relocated. But we're working very hard with them to really minimize the amount of time that residents are temporarily relocated while the renovations are happening. In terms of the options that will be made available, we're currently considering those, and DCHA will make a determination about what the options are that we can offer. Those could be vacant units within Montana Terrace or elsewhere within the Melville project. Could be other DCHA properties. And then hotels are also another option at the discretion of DCHA. Unfortunately, there will not be traditional housing choice vouchers available as part of the relocation plan here. We talked a little bit about the duration already, but I did want to highlight, and this is something that Ms. Williams wants me to make very clear, so I hope I'll do it justice. But families will be relocated together. So your family unit, your household unit will be relocated together. We're not going to be dividing families as part of the relocation. So we'll talk a little bit about the process that we want to go through to understand what your needs are. We're already talking with Ms. Williams, and she's a great source of information. But we'll be coming and talking with you. So understanding your household composition and making sure that the relocation plan accommodates those needs. We will certainly be back to talk to you about relocation. As the project advances, as we understand what the construction schedule looks like and the relocation duration looks like with more detail, we will work closely with you to understand your needs and to share with you what the relocation options and availability is. So at this point, I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, and I apologize, I'm not, is it Miss Jackson today?
It's Brittany Holloway.
It's Brittany. Hi, Brittany. So I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Brittany Holloway from our relocation team, who's going to share with you the relocation process and the offerings that DCHA provides as it relates to relocation.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is Brittany Holloway, the relocation coordinator for DCHA. I have my colleagues, Ms. Katrina Jeter on the line and Ms. Deborah Jackson also with the relocation team. So we just wanted to give you an overview of what relocation looks like. So DCHA's relocation team will work in partnership with residents about future development and relocation plans. which includes informing residents on phasing and scheduled move dates. So we will always be on the line to let you know any progress being made, any changes, any updates, so you guys aren't blindsided about what's going on. And that'll happen throughout the entire duration of this project. After renovation schedules are finalized and impacted residents have been informed, DCHA's relocation team completes relocation surveys to assess special needs and circumstances. So this is where we really get into it and get to know what do you need in order to successfully relocate. So normally we would do these in person, but of course, due to COVID, we may not be able to do that depending on where we are. So even if we can't come out and do it in person, we will call you on the phone. This will be a one-on-one meeting with one of our members of the relocation team and the head of household, and we will get any information that's pertinent to getting you relocated, such as do you need any type of reasonable accommodation, such as grab bars, any special needs that you would need to move to the next unit, anything in your unit that you do need that already exists that your new unit needs to have, or any additional things you need. So that will be, again, a one-on-one conversation with each head of household with one of our members of the relocation team. Number 3, DCHA's relocation team will work with each household to prepare for relocation, provide necessary packing materials, and notify households of upcoming move dates. So we will be with you every step of the way. When it is time to relocate, we will give you tips on how to effectively pack up. We will provide you with packing materials such as boxes, tape, and anything else you may need, bubble wrap, things of that nature in order to prepare for your move. And if you need packing assistance, depending on your age and disability, we will be able to provide that also. You just have to let us know. And that will probably be covered in our survey also. We will notify residents of upcoming move dates. So we will not just call you on Tuesday and say, hey, it's time to move on Wednesday. You will know ahead of time when you need to move, what time frame, and we will let you know the exact move day, and we will try to accommodate you as much as possible to get you relocated on a day that works for you. Number 4, DCHA's relocation team will be present on the day of your move to supervise activity and ensure all relocation needs are satisfied. So one of our relocation members will be on site to ensure everything's going smoothly. We do work with moving companies across the district that we've been working with for years. So we have a rapport with them. They have worked with many residents across our portfolio before, so they are not new to this, but we would just be there to support you in any way we need to make sure everything's going smoothly. DCHA's relocation team will hire a quality moving company to move family. Services includes the moving of belongings, dismantling and reassembly of furniture, and packing assistance if applicable. So again, that goes back to what I said. We will be there every step of the way. Do you need packing assistance? Let's say you have bunk beds that you need to be taken down. They will take it down and reassemble it once they get you to the next location if need be, and all of that good stuff. Number 6, DCHA's relocation team will relocate families from current units to temporary or permanent units where applicable, pay relocation costs, and stay in touch with you. So we will be there again, and I can't emphasize this as much as I would like to, but we will be there every step of the way. You are not alone with this. We will be there. You will have all of our contact information if you have any questions, concerns about anything going on. If we cannot assist you with your questions or concerns, we will definitely know who to forward it to. But we just want to let you guys know you aren't alone. We will be here, and you can ask us anything you need to when you see us, when you get our numbers, ask away, and we're here to support you. And
Great.
that's it for me. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you very much, Brittany. Appreciate it. Next, we're going to hear about the services that DCHA offers through the Office of Resident Services, and Mr. Ron Fisher is going to walk you through this slide.
Thank you, Jonathan. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ron Fisher, and I am the Family Self-Sufficiency Manager with the Office of Resident Services. I want to briefly go over some of these sections and services offered through ORS that everyone on this call today will have access to. I want to start off first by speaking about our workforce development section, which we call WDI. Through this particular program right here, we go ahead and connect residents to job development orientations, resume development. We have hiring events where we actually have employers ready and willing to go ahead and hire residents that attend that various event. We also have career readiness training, employee mentoring services, as well as mobile services, so that the need to come on site at their direct headquarters is unnecessary. Um, Also, we have a direct partnership with the University District of Columbia that I want to highlight, where cost assessments, again, workforce programming will be offered to residents that decide to go ahead down that particular pathway. Next, I want to go ahead and jump into some of the financial literacy programming that the Office of Resident Services offers. We have partnerships set up to go ahead and provide resources to residents that are interested in financial management, asset building, things of that nature. I would say that with these building blocks right here, they create pathways for individuals that are hopeful to go ahead and gain new employment, as well as starting savings accounts for their family, or they want to go ahead and make a direct pathway to home ownership. And with a home ownership pathway, we also offer the Family Self-Sufficiency Program. This is a new service for public housing residents where we work with families in providing case management, as well as additional wraparound services in hopes of building up families where they can go ahead and enter into settlement on a property, whether it's in the district or elsewhere. The starting salary for this program is $32,000. But with this, again, we tie families up to resources that can assist them as they continue to build themselves up so that they can go ahead and allow the purchase to happen. For these services, as well as others that I did not mention, which include partnerships with a number of different agencies out in the community, we also want to highlight that with COVID still going on right now, we are working remotely, as this is evident with this meeting today, so that we want to go ahead and ensure that everybody's health is just, at the forefront before any type of services happen. So please take note of that. To find out more about these services, as well as some of the others, I encourage you all to go ahead and reach out to your community navigator, who is Miss Monique Scott, and I know that she's on the call today. For those that can't view the slide, her direct contact number is 202-816-0042. Again, I encourage you to reach out to Miss Monique Scott. Her number is 202-816-0042. With that, thank you for your time and enjoy your evening.
Thank you very much. Wanted to share with you the upcoming RAD resident engagement. The next round of next time we'll be out doing resident meetings will be, as I mentioned on an earlier slide, prior to submitting the financing plan. During that time, we anticipate we'll include additional information about the financing plan and the structure. So any additional detail that we're able to share at that time about financing plan and structure, we'll certainly do that. We'll update you if there's any updates to the plans, the scope of the renovation. We'll share that with you at that time. And then I think importantly, we'll provide any additional detail we have about construction timeline, phasing, and relocation. And as I mentioned before, the timing of this next round of meetings is likely to be later this year, later in 2020. We'll continue to hold other meetings as necessary if plans change, or if public housing, or if the PHA, the DCHA requires an extension from HUD, and certainly we'll be coming back out and probably more on an individual basis, meeting with you to understand your relocation needs. During all these resident engagement opportunities, DCHA will ensure effective communication with persons with disabilities and language barriers. And we'll do this by making meetings accessible to various types of disabilities, which could limit communication, and will also comply with the DC language access laws. Now I'm going to turn this slide over to LaShawn Douglas to share how COVID has been impacting resident engagement.
Thank you, Jonathan. And again, to all that attended our first meeting, we've been holding our virtual meetings using the WebEx platform simply because of the COVID-19 and emergency order within DC, which prohibits us from gathering in person. So we thank you for joining us again virtually, and for those that are joining for the first time, we thank you for being open to joining the call remotely. Because we've had to do this in a virtual manner now moving forward, but we still are complying with the HUD guidelines and regulations. You heard us take some attendance at the beginning of the meeting. We'll also do that at the end of the meeting before Q&A. And similarly to what Jonathan mentioned, we are accommodating those residents with limited English proficiency needs, making sure that we have materials translated for those individuals, and then also complying with any ADA requirements with regards to those that have any visual or hearing impairments. As we did in our first meeting, following this meeting, we will also provide a follow-up document that will be a summary of the Q&A that is asked during this meeting. So you will receive that, most likely hand delivered to your door as you receive the materials for this meeting. Once we finalize on some meeting dates in regards to the next steps, as Jonathan mentioned, you also may receive calls with reminders of the meeting time and date, as well as emails and text blasts as well. Thank you, Jonathan. Back to you.
Thanks, LaShawn. So just one last slide. We'll talk about next steps, and then I'll turn it back over to LaShawn to see if any residents have joined us during the presentation. So we mark your name down for attendance, and then we'll open up the floor to questions and responses. So as next steps, residents will receive written answers to any questions posed before and at this meeting, and any notification of additional meetings. So as we come out and talk to you prior to the financing plan, you'll receive notification from us. If you have any specific questions related to the property of maintenance need, please do contact Dion Williams, Ms. Williams. Her phone number is 202-716-8482. I will also put this information in the chat. If you have any questions related to relocation, please contact Katrina Jeter. Her phone number is 202-926-7004. And if you have any questions about RAD or DCHA's transformation plan, please route those to the email box or voicemail, and those questions will be routed appropriately to the DCHA staff that can best address your questions. The phone number for that is 202-996-8526, and the email is transformationplan, that's one word, at dchousing.org.
This call should go.
So thank you very much again for your time. We are looking forward to working with you on this important initiative to bring much needed renovations to Montana Terrace and the other Melville properties. And again, thank you for your time.
Thanks, Jonathan. And please continue to, and Jonathan, you may just want to have the slide deck available. I do see that there were some questions in the chat that referenced this slide, and so I'm not sure if that resident still wants you to go back and look at it. So just FYI, before we get started with the Q&A, we will call each resident or individual that is on the line by first and last name, so that we can take your comments and or questions. Before we do that, we just want to make sure that we get that we get those who joined after we took the initial attendance. I'm going to call out the first 6 digits of your telephone number. If you could just let me know your name, I'll unmute you. So I have 202-912. You're unmuted if you could provide your name. First 6 digits are 202-912.
Oh, my name is Janetta Jones.
Janetta Jones.
Yes.
Thank you, Ms. Jones. I'm going to go ahead and mute your line. All right. Then I have a 301-825. 301-825.
Cheryl Bond.
Bond, B-O-N-D.
Vaughan.
Oh, Vaughn, I gotcha. Sorry about that. Thank you, Ms. Vaughn. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and mute your line. I got you covered. And then the last caller I see here is a 202-276.
That's Rhonda Burks.
Okay, thank you. All right, wonderful. All right, let's get started with our Q&A. I see. Okay, thank you, Mary Kate. I see Barbara Walker. You're unmuted. Did you have any questions or comments?
She's still muted, LaShawn.
No, apologies. Thank you. Miss Barbara Walker, any questions or comments? Miss Walker, you with us? Yeah, I see your name, Miss Gretchen. I'll call on you momentarily. Okay. Carolyn Wilson.
No comment.
Thank you, ma'am. Charlene Peterson.
No, ma'am, no comment.
Okay, thank you. Cheryl Vaughn. Questions
No,
or comments?
No.
Okay. Thank you. Miss Clara Chia, any questions or comments?
No.
Okay, thank you. Darlene Carrington.
Yes.
Questions or comments?
Yes, I do. This is my first time at the meeting. I wanted to know how would a resident know if their unit is one of the ones that would go under the reconstruction? Because I see it's only a limited.
Jonathan, you want to take that?
Unit. I'm sorry.
Sure. Thanks, Ms. Carrington. This is Jonathan Rogers, and I'll address your question. All units at Montana Terrace will be renovated. So they're all units will have the improvements made to them.
Oh, okay.
Ms. Carrington, was that your only question?
Yes, that's the only question, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Darlene Green, questions or comments?
No comment.
Thank you. All right. Okay, I see Miss Denise Hill Austin, questions or comments?
No questions, no comments.
Thank you. Deraine Pittman, questions or comments? Oh, sorry, I got you muted. Questions or comments?
No.
Okay, thank you. All right, Ms. Glenn. Diane Willis?
No comment.
Thank you. Okay, Ms. Gretchen, questions or comments?
She's still muted.
I think she muted herself. Questions or comments?
I had a few questions.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
The first question, I was wondering, because we have a few vacancies over here at Montana, I was just wondering, within the whole Malvo project, is it already 25% vacancies? The reason I was asking, because I see that, or as I understand, is it is it correct to understand that 25% of the units within the whole project have to be demolished?
No, and thanks for that question. And it's good to clarify this. So the Section 18 demo dispo is does not there's no demolition, no demolition proposed for Montana Terrace or any of the other properties. It's a financing tool only. So while the name may be confusing, we're not demolishing any of the properties, and it doesn't have anything to do with the vacancies. Actually, I do think that, just for your information, I believe the current vacancy count is at 4 or 5 units for Montana Terrace. But that is sort of separate and not related to that 25%, 75% Section 18 RAD split.
Okay. The reason why I asked, okay, because I was figuring that maybe it was already 25% already vacant, that maybe needed a lot of work done to it, you know. And so we contact Ms. Monique Scott for the FSS program.
Correct.
I think that was my only question.
Okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you all for sending us out this package.
Oh, you're welcome. All right, Hazel Duval. Questions or comments? Okay, thank you. Helen Bigsby, questions or comments? Ms. Helen Bigsby, any questions or comments? Okay. All right. Ms. Jeanette Jones, questions or comments?
No questions or comments.
Okay, thank you. I have Lakeisha Cooper, questions or comments?
No, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Lynette Parker, questions or comments?
No questions or comments.
Okay, thank you. Maria G, questions or comments? Any questions at this time?
No.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Marquita Whitfield, any questions or comments?
No question or comment.
Okay, thank you. Then Morgan, questions or comments? You said no? Okay. Oh, okay, I see your question at below. Let me see. So Morgan posted a question, will the tenants be responsible for paying utilities under the new RAD program? Jonathan, do you want to take that?
Yeah, I might actually ask Andrea to weigh in on this one.
Sure. The current plan is that for Melbo, we would continue to handle utilities, paid utilities the same way that they're handled right now. So currently, to the extent that DCHA pays water, gas, and electric, that would continue. You would be responsible for telephone and cable. So there should be no change. And then as a part of the relocation process, to the extent that there needs to be change in connections, for the relocation, we will handle those. The project will handle the connection fees that happen during the relocation. So there should be no change.
Ms. Powell, can you expound upon, will they be responsible for excess utility charges?
Yes. So to the extent that there are excess utilities, as is currently the case under the current lease, that will also, thank you, Ms. Watson, you will continue to be responsible for excess utility charges under the RAD conversion. Very good. Thank you.
Okay. And
May I say one thing?
Yeah.
Okay, so for the residents that are paying the flat rent, at Montana, if they transfer them to another property that the flat rent is higher or lower, will they be responsible for that part of it? Because, and the reason why I asked that question is because I have a resident that moved from another site that transferred to Montana, and she was paying one thing up there because the flat rent was different there compared to the rent that's over at Montana, which is much higher than what she was paying there. So that's what I need to get straight for me, so I can be able to explain to the residents if I need to. So I need to get that very clear right now, because I have that right now.
So let me do some clarity as far as public housing. So yes, as we know that there are flat rents that are different from each property. So if you are transferred to a different public housing property, yes, you will comply with the flat rent that is at that property.
I just wanted to make that clear, because if they go somewhere else where the flat rent is lower or higher from where I am right now, that it's going to probably be an issue, I think. So I just wanted to get that clear for me.
We will be ensured that the resident is advised of that in advance if there is a difference, especially if it is higher.
Okay. Thank you. Andrea, did you want to chime in?
No, I think we're good.
Okay. Okay. Perfect. Thank you all. That was a great question. Go to mute. Rhonda Burks, questions or comments?
No, not at this time.
Okay, thank you. And Ron, Sandra, Sheila, Tatiana, right? Questions or comments?
Nothing at this time.
Okay, thank you. Tiffany Ellis, questions or comments?
I have a quick question. I'm a resident in one of the 2 apartment buildings, and I know that I will not be gone long because our apartment is basically halfway already modified with the renovations. So my next question is to ask, with the building being worked on around us, how does that work for health issues?
So I can, I'll start. Thanks for the question. The way DCHA will approach the construction phasing is that whole buildings, so entire buildings, will need to be renovated at the same time.
Okay.
So for the walk-up building, where it's essentially two different addresses, two different buildings that are connected. We will work with the general contractor to understand what their proposed schedule is. But if we are requiring that the general contractor construct all renovations within a building at the same time, so residents will be temporarily moved all at the same time in a building, and then moved back into the property all at the same time, so that you're not dealing with construction dust, and as well as we anticipate the work to happen kind of at the same time in each of the units in that building. So while your kitchen is torn up, all your neighbors' kitchen likely will be torn up as well. So that's how we're handling things, whole building phases, so that neighbors within the same building are not having to live through construction noise and dust and debris.
Okay, because the last meeting they told us that we would basically be coming back, me and my neighbor will be coming back before anybody else because our renovations wouldn't take as long. So I just wanted to get clarification. Say it again, Ms. Dion, because I see you shaking your head, but I can't hear you.
No, that's not what we were saying. I'll talk to you offline about that. That's not what we were saying.
Okay.
I will talk to you offline for that. I'll call you right now.
Okay. Thank you. All right. I think next we have Torino Wortham.
Yes, I just want to ask a question. How soon will this project start?
Good question. Jonathan, you want to take that?
Sure. So the actual construction is not expected to begin until the first quarter of 2021. So first quarter is January, February, March. That's our current timeline. As we get closer to beginning construction, we will certainly be out and updating you particularly around the relocation needs, so that you have plenty of time to make accommodations, pack, and anything else that you need to do before construction starts. Now, let me caveat: the first quarter of 2021 is when we expect overall construction across the Melville project to start. We don't know yet what the exact phasing will be between properties within Melville. That is something that is still being determined and will be negotiated with the general contractor. And we're actively working through that process now, and expect to have answers in the coming months as we refine the construction schedule. So we will certainly be back out and providing you updates.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, next we have Toya Anderson. Questions or comments?
Yes, ma'am. I don't want to seem unappreciative. I think the meetings are very helpful. But other than period, I didn't receive any new information. Going forward, is it necessary to attend every meeting? Because basically, I listened to this meeting, and it was pretty much what I listened to approximately 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, we actually did purposely kept these meetings very similar for those who weren't able to make the first meeting. Right between the last 2 weeks, there haven't been any updates, but the next set of meetings will be a different content. So you do want to join those meetings, and you will get the material in advance so that you can see that there will be the variation in content.
Okay, that's all I had. Thank you, ma'am.
No problem. All right, Wanda Jones, any questions or comments?
Yes, I do have a question. When doing renovation and making placements, where will the residents be going at?
Jonathan, do you want to take that?
Sure. Yeah, I'll answer that. We will be developing over the next few weeks and months the detailed relocation plan, which includes options for where households will be temporarily relocated. As I was presenting on the slides, the options include potentially vacant units within Montana Terrace or another Melville property. Could be another DCHA property. And then hotels are also another option that we're considering. We will be back out to share with you more specific options as they become available. So unfortunately, it's a topic that is still being developed, still evolving, but we want to keep you up to date, and we'll be back out to share those relocation options with you.
Okay, I have another question. Now, when residents are brought back to the property where they said that there will be no screenings or anything, because I know of a property where a lot of people weren't able to come back because they had credit problems. Is that going to be a problem here?
It is not. There is no screening.
Yep. So there's no screening that happens when you come back. You have the absolute right to return to the property.
Okay, because even though it's in black and white, things have been noticed to be changed. I just wanted to put that out there.
Sure. This is HUD's RAD program, and so that was part of the design of the program. So it is built in as provided by HUD that there's no screening.
Okay.
May I say something? So for those residents that are in the larger units, those 4 bedrooms, 3 bedrooms that you're in right now and no longer qualify for, you will not be going back to those units. Just keep that in mind. You will not be going back to that 3 or 4 bedroom if it's only you and another person on that lease. You will be placed in the proper size bedroom. Just keep that in mind. So when you say you want to come back to the property, if you're not qualified to be in that particular size unit, you will not be placed in that size unit. Just keep that in mind.
Yeah, and just to add on to that, just like HUD requires that you can return to the property without rescreening, they also require that there's a right sizing exercise to make sure that your household is sized in the appropriate unit. So if your household, if you're in a 2 and you need to be in a 3, that process will take place. And then the same in reverse. If you're currently in a 3 or a 4 and you need a 1 or a 2 bedroom unit, that right sizing process will also take place during and as part of the RAD project.
All right. So thank you all. Ms. Jones, was that your only comment and question?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. I am going to ask that if anyone was omitted, that you unmute yourself and ask your question. We just want to make sure that we don't leave anyone without the opportunity to voice their concern or ask their question. And if there's anyone on the line that has a second question, just based off on some of the feedback you just heard, if you have another question, you may unmute yourself and
LaShawn, there were a couple of questions in the chat that we should probably read out for those of the residents who are on the phone. One of them is, what is an excess utility charge? The answer is, according to the lease, an excess utility charge is for a washing machine, dryer, additional freezer, refrigerators, and window air conditioners. Not the single refrigerator you have, but an additional one if you have a second or a window air conditioner.
Okay. Thank you. And then as I go back in there looks like there was a question. Can we ask questions here about the updates to the kitchen and AC units? Jonathan, do you just want to go over what that will look like for the units? You're on mute, Jonathan.
Jonathan, you still there?
All right.
Yeah. No
Here
worries.
I am. Kitchens will be renovated, including things like flooring, cabinets, appliances, countertops, backsplashes, and lighting. So I hope that answers that question. In terms of the systems of the AC, the heat, the water heater, these are also included in the renovation plan. So new building systems.
Okay, thank you. And then I just see one other kind of question, and that was in the chat. Mr. Fisher, can you just come on the line and kind of summarize the question that you answered for the resident in regards to the FSS program?
Okay, sure. Just to clarify, with the 2 main sections I spoke about earlier, with workforce, there are no income requirements for that program. It's strictly it's just that it's a workforce program where we go ahead and tie individuals either to employment opportunities or to training opportunities. As for the FSS program, because that is the agency's public housing homeownership program, there is an income requirement in place, mainly just because, again, with the 2 main factors to go ahead and make a purchase happen typically involve the income piece as well as the credit piece. We want anybody that enters into the program to already at least kind of be on their way. We know that there may be some type of work needed in order to continue to boost the income, but at least the conversation can start and we can go ahead and have more, I guess, direct conversations with individuals based off of where they currently are. And that will go ahead and kind of drive and give better timelines for the family to go ahead and prepare to make that transition. And that's why the income requirement is in place right now.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Fisher, for summarizing that. Okay, and it doesn't look like I don't see any other questions in the chat. If any of the other DCHA staff see any, please feel free to share out loud. Okay. No, I think that's it. So if there are any additional comments, Jonathan or Ms. Williams, any additional comments? Okay. All right, well, we thank you all again for attending today's meeting. The meeting will be online at dcha.us under the Montana Terrace tab on that main page. So you also find all of today's presentations as well as the resident information notice attached to that page as well. Again, as we mentioned, moving forward, when there's when the other meetings become scheduled, we will reach out via email, text message, and then also delivery with documents as well. So you'll get a meeting flyer to your door. So we thank you all for joining and enjoy the rest of your evening. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Gretchen, I see your note there. I'll make note of it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mary Kay, are you there? She left.